I never imagined I'd see him again until he mocked me as a pregnant waitress. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as I stood behind the counter, apron tight around my waist, hands trembling. The bell above the door chimed. A sound that once brought hope now filled me with dread. I couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to happen. I looked up and there he was, Jesse, the boy from my past, the one who shattered my world. He walked in, looking ridiculously handsome in that fitted leather jacket, flashing that cocky smile that once made me weak in the knees. But today, he smirked in contempt as his eyes landed on my swollen belly and my cheeks burned. The cafe felt stifling, the air thick with unspoken words. I forced myself to smile, but it felt like a cruel joke. I was trapped in a nightmare adorned with chipped mugs and laughter that rang hollow. All around me, people chatted and clinked their forks against plates, unaware of my spiraling chaos. But Jesse knew. He always did. "Look at you," he said with a chuckle, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Living the dream, huh? Pregnant and serving coffee." The murmurs of the patrons faded into silence. My heart sank. It felt like I had been stripped bare, exposed for the whole world to see. I was more than just a waitress. I was a person who dreamed, who fought to salvage what was left of myself. But there he was, digging up the past and flinging it in my face. Memories raced through my mind, lockers slammed shut, shared smiles in the hall, our names scratched into the park bench, promises that shimmered like stars. All of it turned to ash in my mouth. I had trusted him. What was he even doing back here? "Haven't you moved on?" I managed to choke out, my voice shaky, the crowd a buzz of harsh whispers behind my back. His laughter echoed against the walls. Why would I? This is too entertaining. My stomach clenched. Was it rage or despair? The burning humiliation of his laughter made my fingers twitch. All I wanted was to fade into the background, disappear behind the espresso machine, and ignore the glaring spotlight he had unknowingly thrown on me. But the truth clawed its way to the surface. I needed to find closure. I needed to confront him. I felt the weight of every moment crash down like a tidal wave. Everything had changed, yet nothing felt different. I stepped forward, the flutter in my chest battling with anger, fists clenched at my sides. "You don't know anything about me, Jesse." The moment hung heavy between us, a charged silence swirling like an electric storm. Eyes were on us. My hands trembled, heart thudded as I awaited his next move. Suddenly, something shifted in his expression. For a split second, the mockery faded. I saw confusion, maybe a hint of regret. What did that look mean? Then, just as abruptly, the smirk returned. "Prove it. Come and sit with me. Tell me your story." A rush of adrenaline surged through me. Could I really? Would I dare? My heart raced, confusion swirling. Was there still a spark of the boy I once loved hidden behind his callousness? Behind me, the chatter resumed, the normalcy reminding me of my crushing reality. My breath hitched, like a roller coaster teetering on the edge, ready to plunge. What if this meeting changed everything? I had to know. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The din of the cafe buzzed around me, a stark juxtaposition to the moment unfolding before us. Jesse leaned casually against the stool he had just vacated, eyes sparkling with mischief. A part of me wanted to refuse the invitation, to keep him at arm's length where I could protect my fragile heart from further hurt. But another part, that old part, longed for connection, for understanding that had somehow slipped away. With cautious steps, I approached him, the space between us charged and electric. I could feel my palms sweating as I perched on the edge of the seat across from him. The banter we once exchanged over milkshakes and sunny days seemed worlds away. Now all that stood between us was a chasm filled with misunderstandings, anger, and unfulfilled dreams. "Your life looks different," he said, his tone a mix of genuine curiosity and the usual playfulness. I swallowed hard, not wanting to give him the satisfaction of knowing how deeply he moved me. "Different? Yeah, I'd say that's one way to put it." I forced a smile, trying to mask the hurt. "So what brings you back to this town?" "It's been years." "Business," he stated simply, his eyes narrowing slightly. "But mostly, I wanted to see if this place was as awful as I remembered." The sting of his words was like an ice pick to my heart. "Nice to know I've still got the same effect on you," I snapped, defensive. A flicker of guilt crossed his face, barely noticeable, before he laughed, masking it with sarcasm. "I remember you taking that pretty hard last time. So pregnant and still bitter? You really haven't changed much." Anger flared in me again, a feral instinct rising with the heat. "You don't get to judge me." My voice was louder than I intended, catching the attention of a few tables nearby. The embarrassment washed over me like a cold wave, and I dropped my gaze to the coffee-stained table. "You don't know what I've been through." There it was again, the briefest hint of something deeper in his expression. "Then tell me," he urged softly, the mocking facade wavering. "I may have been an ass before, but am listening now. Really, what happened?" I hesitated, the tempting urge to spill everything, every drop of pain and confusion warring with the fear that he'd laugh it off. But if I was ever to find closure, I had to confront the past. "You left me. No explanation, no goodbye. Just gone." I began, my voice cracking with emotion. "I was lost, Jesse. I thought we were forever. And then it all shattered." His gaze softened, sincerity glinting in his eyes, a flicker of the boy I had loved buried beneath layers of arrogance. "I wasn't ready. I thought I could run away from everything. From us. It was stupid. I know that now." The words hung in the air, heavy and thick. A single moment of honesty offered in a whirlwind of mockery felt like a fragile bond attempting to mend the rawness between us. I wanted to tell him how I had climbed my way back to breathing, how I had found strength in that pregnancy, but the memories choked me. After a heartbeat, he reached across the table, his fingers brushing against mine. "I'm sorry. Really. Can we start over? I want to understand where you are now," as hope dared to bloom within me. The door swung open, pulling my attention away from Jesse. A gust of wind swept through the café, sending a shiver down my spine. A familiar silhouette appeared in the doorway. Ryan, my ex-husband and the father of my unborn child. The sudden blast of dread flooded back, the air condensing into an oppressive silence. Ryan's eyes darted between Jesse and me, and I watched as recognition morphed into something darker. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his voice fierce and low, slicing through the tension like a knife. Caught in the chaos of past and present, I felt a heavy weight settle in my chest. This was not how I envisioned finding resolution. A torrent of emotions crashed over me, pulling at old wounds while threading confusion and anger into an intricate web. I stammered, lost as I searched faces for answers. But Jess's expression hardened, his sing-song sarcasm now a distant memory. And just like that, the fragile thread of connection between us snapped. Chaos reigned as Ryan's voice lingered in the space between us, heavy and accusatory. I felt like a puppet, strings tangled in a dance I didn't want to be part of. My heartbeat thrummed in my ears, drowning out the café's ambient noise, and the vibrant buzz filled me with an unsettling dread. Jess's hand retreated as if burned, the warmth of that fleeting connection snuffed out. Disappointment crashed over me like a wave, scorching my skin and leaving me gasping for air. "What's going on?" Ryan repeated, his face a mask of confusion and suspicion. It was then I recognized the hurt in his eyes, a flash of jealousy mixed with genuine concern. The look reminded me of the nights he'd come home exhausted from work, his brow furrowed, emotions kept buried beneath the gruff exterior. But now, nothing about the situation felt simple. I glanced at Jesse, who was now busily observing the sugar packet dispenser with newfound interest. The sudden shift sent my heart spiraling. Should I shield him? Defend my past? My emotions felt like shards of glass, cutting deep and sharp. I'm just catching up with Jesse, I managed, my voice steady despite the rawness inside. You remember him, right? From before. Ryan scoffed, hands on his hips. Yeah, I remember. The guy who left town without looking back. Something flickered in Jesse's eyes, a determination sparking across his features. I didn't exactly leave with my head held high, he replied, his tone calm and measured. But I came back to apologize. The revelation hung in the air, charged with tension. My heart thudded, a part of me grateful for Jess's honesty while another part screamed for the past to stay buried. Ryan's nostrils flared as he leaned in closer to me. And here I was, thinking we had a chance to work things out. I trusted you to stay away from him. My life is not about you, Ryan. Not anymore. I snapped, the words raw and unfiltered. Anger surged, and I felt both terrified and empowered. I'm here for me, not to fit into the box you made for me. Maybe you should have thought about that before. He spat back, his voice low and dangerous. I watched as fury mixed with pain in his expression, emotions swirling like a tempest. The arguments of our past drifted back in waves, shouting matches, slammed doors, and unwashed dishes that became symbols of our broken vows. In those fleeting moments, the memories overflowed. I could see scenes from my life flash like black and white film reels. The moments of laughter turned into silent meals. The way Ryan's touch felt like I struggled to find words that could mend that metaphorical bridge. Jesse took a deep breath, breaking through the rising storm. Look, I'm sorry to intrude on whatever this is, but it was a mistake to think I could just show up and talk to her like nothing happened. His honest gaze met mine. You deserve better than just catching up with ghosts. The rawness of his honesty felt like a tether in the turbulence. Suddenly, my discomfort shifted into something more profound, like I was straddling the line between heartache and hope. Yet, Ryan's glare bore down on me, a searing reminder that the past had a way of crawling back, uninvited. Just be careful. Ryan's words were laced with warning. You think he's changed? He'll break you again. My gut twisted as guilt mingled with a whisper of defiance. A part of me wanting to acknowledge that Jesse had hurt me before, but also wanting the chance to soothe my scars in my own way. I can handle my own heart, Ryan. Just like I handled everything else when you left me with a mess. I stated, more for myself than for him. As he stepped back, thrown by my confidence, I noticed a waitress approaching our tablier distraction like a breath of fresh air amidst the brewing storm. She carried a tray with drinks, her smile genuine and cheerful, a stark contrast to the tension that had almost suffocated me. Everything okay here? She asked, genuinely concerned, her expression softening the heated atmosphere. The gesture pulled me back. There are moments of light that bloom even in the darkest corners. Yeah, sorry for the commotion. Just catching up. I smiled thinly, thankful for the respite. The waitress set down the drinks, her hands shaking slightly. If you need space, just let me know. I can always add more pastries to the menu if you'd like. She smiled brightly, her warmth infectious as I looked around. Catching my breath, I felt a shift within. In the midst of emotional chaos, someone still noticed, still cared. But that relief was short-lived when I reoriented myself back to Ryan's brooding figure and Jess's hopeful eyes. Then it hit me. A chilling realization crept in. The waitress pulled out a folded piece of paper from her pocket, placing it discreetly on the table. Her eyes shifted nervously, but she smiled before turning to walk away. Confusion clouded my thoughts until I noticed the unmistakable emblem that adorned the top of the Nodia Hospital insignia. What is this? I asked, glancing puzzled at the small paper. My heart raced as I opened it to reveal a name and a Tamia prenatal appointment for a paternity test whose outcome would seal my fate, resurrect my fears, and rewrite the narrative of my life. My breath caught in my throat as Jesse and Ryan exchanged looks, realization dawning in the depths of their eyes. The air grew heavy with unspoken words, the impending storm thundering on the horizon. A sudden chasm opened beneath me, threatening to swallow me whole, and for the first time, I was acutely aware that the past wasn't through with me yet. The café's muted conversations surrounded me, but their words were distant echoes against the pounding of my heart. I could feel the weight of the folded paper threatening to collapse the fragile equilibrium that had just existed mere moments before. The waitress's cheerful demeanor had evaporated into the taut air, leaving behind an electric silence that made the world feel heavy and surreal. Ryan's face drained of color as the implications of the note unfurled like an ominous banner. Is this for real?" he whispered, his voice trembling slightly. "Wait, what?" Jess's brow furrowed in confusion, and his eyes darted to mine, seeking answers somewhere in my spiraling thoughts. "What does that mean?" I swallowed hard, my mind racing. I wanted to say something, to explain the fiery cocktail of dread and confusion swirling in my gut, but the truth eluded me. This moment felt as if it had been suspended in Tamiya cruel cosmos, flipping the narrative on its head. I had never conceived of such a possibility, yet here it was, thrust into my hands with an undeniable certainty. "I don't know," I managed finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's a paternity test appointment." My fingers trembled as I clutched the paper, pressing it against my chest as if by doing so I could absorb its meaning. The words hung, heavy and oppressive. I could feel the pulse of the café around me spiraling back into life, the clinks of coffee cups and the hum of idle chatter swirling in chaos as I felt utterly frozen in place. Ryan's eyes narrowed, shadows of heartbreak swirling beneath his gaze. "Are you pregnant?" Each word felt like a stone dropped into the fragile pond of our relationship, sending ripples of disbelief. "No," came the involuntary response, sharp enough to draw the attention of nearby tables. I couldn't bear the weight of that perception, not from him, not from anyone. "I mean, no, it's not like that. It's a mistake," I stammered, grappling with my spiraling emotions. "The waitress, she thought it was part of her shift. I don't know why she thought." "What?" Ryan interrupted, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "Thought you were trying to deceive me? Or trying to find another way to trap me?" I felt my breath hitching, shocked by the accusation. "That's not fair, Ryan." "I would never," but Jesse interjected, his voice steady although concern etched deep in his brows. "She's telling the truth. It doesn't make sense. I'm sure there's an explanation." His gaze shifted between us, navigating the precarious tension. I could see pity pooling in Ryan's eyes, and it stung like sharp thorns against my skin. "But it's not just a matter of sense, it's about trust. You made me promise to stay away from him. But here we are, no wonder you kept things from me." His voice cracked, each syllable a sharpened blade that cut into the frayed edges of my heart. "Ryan," I softened, stepping forward slightly, as if to bridge the gap between our tangled emotions. "This isn't about deception. I have feelings that I'm trying to sort through." The boldness fell away from my words, replaced by the sharp thrum of vulnerability. Jesse placed a hand on my arm, and it sent warmth coursing through the chill, invading the space. "Everything wasn't so simple when I left. I didn't mean to resurface and ruin anything for you. I came back because I thought maybe we could find some closure. But clearly, my presence has only opened old wounds." "Closure?" Ryan's voice dripped with disbelief. "You think you deserve closure after you just waltzed back into her life, without a thought for how she might feel? You think it's just about what you want? We need to put aside the past if we want a chance at understanding how we got here," Jesse countered, his resolve unshaken. My heart raced as I took a step back, feeling as if I was caught in a storm winds whipping around me, pulling me in disparate directions. Each word exchanged between them brushed against my insides, the conflicting emotions spilling into the air like sardonic laughter. But this chaos had unraveled something deep within me, a whirlwind of fear, contrasted with a tether of hope. "This isn't just about us anymore," I whispered, the gravity of my thoughts giving weight to my voice. "It's about what comes next." "I don't know what that means, that I end the distance," the waitress returned, her expression shifting from lightheartedness to concern. "Everything okay?" she ventured cautiously, glancing at the tension that had reclaimed the space. My eyes remained locked on the note, its implications haunting me. The one tiny slip of paper that could tether me to a past I had long tried to escape. "No," I murmured, barely able to voice my own fears. And it was then I caught a glimpse of something in Ryan's eyes, a flicker of guilt and a touch of realization. "You should have told me," he said, struggling against a swell of emotion. "But who's going to be there? If you're forced to face the truth alone, what happens next?" Before I could respond, the door swung open. In walked a familiar figure, the very person I had hoped to escape. A ghost of my past now materializing before my eyes. Her presence a harbinger of turmoil. A glimmer of metallic red hair caught the light as she strode through the café, impossibly confident, impossibly withdrawn all at once. A ghost now poised to knock over everything we'd tried to build on shaky ground. What was she doing here? And why now, in this storm of emotions? My heart seized and the sense of impending change flooded over me as it dawned on me that the past was far from settled. The truth, however tangled, was here to confront us all. The tension in the café cranked up a notch as the red-haired figure crossed the threshold, the bell over the door ringing like a warning. Time felt as if it had slipped into slow motion. Every glance exchanged among us echoed with 1,000 unsaid words. The warm scent of freshly brewed coffee contrasted sharply with the icy apprehension washing over me. She strode towards us, oblivious to the strife that had erupted moments before. The bright lights danced on her hair, which was styled just so, a confident display of control that belied the turmoil beneath. I barely registered the coffee mug being set down in front of me. All I could focus on was the way her eyes flicked to Ryan and then to Jessie, narrowing at the sight of me standing between them, a tremor of recognition shivering through her smile. "Hey, I didn't expect to see any familiar faces here," she said, her tone too light for the gravity of the moment. "I thought I was done with that mess." Her gaze lingered on me for just a moment longer, and the implications behind those words hung in the air, adding another layer to the tension that had already set heavy upon our table. I struggled to maintain control over my breathing. It was as if she had wrapped her fingers around my throat, squeezing tighter with each passing second. This was not how I had envisioned my day, nor my reality. The paternity test appointment loomed like a dark shadow over everything, ready to obliterate whatever small semblance of hope I clung to. What did she want? So suddenly stepping back into my life, challenging me in a space that felt simultaneously intimate and public. "Celia." Ryan's voice was restrained, a slight edge surfacing as he addressed this unexpected apparition from my past. "Of all places, you chose this one." Celia's expression morphed into one of feigned confusion. Her eyebrows arched in that annoying way she always did when she thought she was above it all. "Well, it's a café, isn't it? A great spot for an afternoon pick-me-up." She glanced at me, a flicker of something dark in her gaze. "What's going on here? You could have at least waited until I was done working to stir the gossip pot." How could she be so callous? "This isn't about you, Celia," I shot back, surprising myself with the fierceness of my tone. "And am not here to engage in whatever game you think you're playing." The weight of my words seemed to draw a veil over the conversation. Jesse shifted uncomfortably, as if he too was feeling the ripple of turbulence. "I think we should," he began, trying to steer our chaotic encounter towards something more peaceful. "Should what?" Celia interrupted, crossing her arms, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her skin like impatient raindrops. "It's been ages since I left this place behind, and now I walk in on this little reunion? This must be some kind of tormented family drama waiting to unfold." "Stop it," I shouted, the heartache spilling over the edge of my carefully curated composure. "We're not part of your drama. This is not some plot twist you can play with. This is my life." Ryan's eyes flickered with confusion at my outburst, and Jesse watched me closely, gauging every beat of emotion that cascaded across my face. I felt raw and exposed, anger boiling within me, but the fear of what lay beneath was far more overwhelming. Celia's expression shifted, a glint of something sharper glittering beneath the surface. "You know, there are things you can't run from, and this," she gestured between the three of uses, "just one of them." "Ryan, did you really think she'd just forget about everything that happened? You think you're so innocent in all of this?" I could see the walls closing in on Ryan as the truth behind her words crushed through the fragile barrier I had tried to maintain. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice trembling as uncertainty flared in his eyes, laid bare for Celia to see. The moment felt irretrievable, the air rife with unspoken accusations. Celia smirked, and for a fleeting second, I could see her reveling in the confusion she ignited. You'll learn soon enough. Sometimes the past has a way of coming back, especially when there's a new little package on the way. That I recoiled as if struck by lightning, the weight of her insinuation crashing over me with a resonance that cut deeper than I could bear. My heart raced. The world around me began to spin on an axis of dread. A baby? Was that even a possibility? My pulse quickened, anxiety clawing at my insides. But it was Ryan's reaction that sliced through me most, his face contorted into a mask of horror and disquiet, my worst fear reflected in his wide eyes. What did you just say? He demanded, and the panic in his voice reached new heights as he turned back to me. Searching for any hint of confirmation, that I opened my mouth, not even sure what words would emerge, tumbling into the chasm that threatened to open between us. The abyss of silence loomed ominously, and in that moment of uncertainty, I caught Jess's gaze. The kindness I had felt in him before flickered with a concern that tore at my heart, offering no solace as the weight of a dreadful truth hung above us. Please, I whispered, helpless, pleading for reason where none existed. Yet the air was heavy, our world tipping back into darkness as a new layer of complexity revealed itself, overwhelming everything I had hoped to escape. I wished desperately for an answer, a sign that the rising tide of confusion could be quelled, but deep down, I knew there was no reprieve, and as I watched the expression shift between Ryan, Jessie, and Celia, a shiver of uncertainty seeped into my bones. The past had not only come crashing back, it was here to stay. The question now was, what else did it bring along with it? The bell chimed gently again, signaling yet another customer arriving, but it barely registered in the ether of our own spiraling chaos. I was barely keeping my composure, my heart a wild drumbeat threatening to burst its cage. The café, once my refuge, now felt like a prison lined with shadows and whispers. The warmth that once embraced me was now a suffocating blanket dragging me further into despair. Jesse leaned in slightly, the turmoil in his gaze palpable. Let's just talk somewhere private, he suggested gently, attempting to diffuse the tension that had wrapped itself around the table. I could hear the hesitation in his voice, the unspoken recognition that none of us were prepared for what was unraveling. Ryan's focus remained locked on me, a storm brewing beneath the surface of his calm exterior. He stumbled over his words, urgency lacing each syllable. Is it true? Is that what Celia meant? His inquiry cut deeper than any blade, unearthing fears I had hidden away, swept beneath the semblance of normalcy I had built since arriving here. Let's not jump to conclusions, I replied, my voice trembling. Celia has a way of twisting the truth to suit her whims. It doesn't have to mean anything, but what if it does? Ryan interjected, his frustration bubbling beneath his shouts, and the fierceness in his tones startled me. We can't just pretend this isn't happening. Enough, I exclaimed, glancing around the cafe, feeling eyes upon us. There was little doubt in my mind that our painful exchange was a gift for anyone seeking gossip. I pressed my palms against the cool wood of the table, feeling its solidity beneath the chaos surrounding me. We need to get out of here. Celia leaned backward, a sly smile forming on her lips as if she found great joy in our vulnerability. You think escaping will save you? The truth has a way of catching up. My love, she said mockingly, her tone dripping with scorn. Ignoring her, I grabbed my jacket off the back of the chair, ready to flee from the scrutiny and from the ticking time bomb of doubt pressed against my heart. Jesse stood up to follow me, his expression grave but supportive. I'm coming with you. As we stepped outside, the crisp air enveloped me, a bittersweet contrast to the suffocation of the cafe. I placed a hand on my forehead, desperately trying to breathe through the chaos swirling within me. What if she's right? I whispered, my voice barely cracking through the cold air. Well, figure it out, Jesse said, placing a comforting hand on the small of my back. You're not alone in this. I wanted to believe him, but the fear gnawed at my insides like a relentless predator. As much as Jess's kindness somewhat anchored me, the enormity of the situation loomed large. I could feel the unseen weight of possibilities pressing down on marriage against Celia, confusion about what could lie ahead, and a desperate yearning for clarity. We walked a few blocks, the familiar vibrancy of the streets somehow feeling foreign. The environment held contrast. The laughter of children playing, the busy cafes filled with lovers and friends, while inside, I felt like a ghost, drifting unmoored through a world that continued to spin without regard for my emotional storm. Jesse finally led me to a small park, its greenery a stark reminder of life beyond this vortex of turmoil. "Do you want to sit for a moment?" he asked, his voice soothing. I nodded, finally allowing myself to take a breath without feeling the prying eyes of the world upon me as we settled onto a weathered park bench. I could feel the tension easing, if only slightly, but the insidious uncertainty still churned in my core. "I can't let her mess with my life again," I muttered, staring into the grass, desperately searching for the resolve that had momentarily deserted me. Jesse leaned closer, his gaze unwavering. "You're stronger than this. You've fought so hard to get where you are." Yet doubt cast a shadow across his comforting words. What if I hadn't fought hard enough? What if I was about to lose everything I had come to hold dear? The very thought of a child, the reality of it pressed like a weight on my chest that caused tears to well in my eyes. "Jesse, what if she's right? What if I am pregnant?" I barely managed to get the words out, each syllable a dagger that pierced through my heart. "What if it is Ryan's?" His brow furrowed with concern, and he moved to grasp my hands with his. "Then we will face it together. No matter what, we can lay claim to your truth. You can make this decision, it doesn't define you. You're not bound by anyone else's choices." In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within the tumult, the kindness in Jess's voice, the warmth of his hands encasing mine. But just as I began to gather my scattered thoughts, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. A jarring contrast to our moment of sincerity, I fished it out, eyes scanning the screen for the name that made my stomach twist anew. "Ryan." Hesitantly, I answered. "What?" "Celia's gone," he said, his voice strained and urgent. "She left the cafe with something that could change everything." Shock coursed through my veins, but confusion clouded my thoughts, raising a fresh tide of dread within me. "What do you mean?" "Something's not right," he urged, a hint of desperation edging his tone. "You need to come back, this isn't over." I promised, but the words rang hollow even as I uttered them. A sense of foreboding gripped my chest, leaving me breathless and uncertain. I glanced at Jesse, symptoms of fear flickering in his eyes. "What now?" I whispered. "This isn't just a past we're contending with now. It's something more, something that could shatter everything," Jesse replied softly, his brow furrowing in concern. And as the realization washed over me, the looming shadow of what was hidden beyond the horizon grew even darker. I had wanted to believe that I could emerge from the wreckage of my past, yet it seemed it was only the beginning of an even more tumultuous storm. The sun was waning, its golden light spilling over the corners of the park, a cruel contrast to the impending storm brewing in my heart. Jesse's concern was palpable, edging closer as I struggled to comprehend Ryan's frantic words. The air felt thick with uncertainty, and the beauty of twilight seemed to mock my internal disharmony. What did Celia have that could disrupt the fragile peace I had fought so hard to build? I tugged at Jess's hand as anxiety twisted within me again. "I need to know what she took," I muttered, panic lacing my voice. What could she possibly mean by change everything? "They'll call Ryan back," Jesse replied, his fingers swift on his phone, the sound of his rhythmic tapping a reminder of all the unpredictability surrounding us. My resolve teetered on the edge. I didn't know whether to scream or cry, or simply to disappear into the night, away from all of this. But just as Jess's voice rose to speak to Ryan again, I noticed a figure lingering at the edge of the park, a man with unruly hair and penetrating eyes fixed on me, his presence igniting both dread and a flicker of something else within recognition. Dirk. My heartbeat quickened, memories flooding back uninvited. He was a ghost from a more turbulent time, the specter of my past I thought I was done with. What was he doing here? How had he found me? "Jesse," I whispered hoarsely, and he glanced up from his conversation, concern knitting his brow tighter. "It's him," It's Dirk. Instantly, Jess's demeanor shifted, protective instincts flaring to life. He hung up the call mid-sentence and quickly moved between me and the approaching figure. "Stay behind me," he urged softly but firmly, as if fortified by instinct alone. "Leah," Dirk called, his voice smooth yet laced with a hint of something predatory. I felt like prey, exposed and vulnerable before him. "We need to talk." "About what?" I shot back, heart racing. How could he simply waltz back into my life as if nothing had happened? Anger bubbled within me, battling against the terror that seemed to cling to his very presence. "I heard you've been having some issues. Things that could be problematic without proper support," he said, an unsettlingly coy smile spreading across his face. "I can help you. You know that, don't you?" "Help?" I echoed incredulously. "The last time you helped me, everything fell apart. Perhaps I could fix what I broke." He insisted, stepping closer, an ominous determination glinting in his gaze. The air shifted, the world around us fading into a mere shadow of the confrontation unfolding. "Back off," Jesse warned, voice low and full of authority. "You don't have any right to be here. Leave her alone." Dirk's attention flicked from me to Jesse, a glint of amusement sparking. "And who are you? Her protector? How sweet." "Enough games," I said, pushing past Jesse, my voice a trembling but fierce whisper. "You think you can come here and I can come here because I care about you?" Dirk interrupted, an insistent edge to his tone. "What you don't realize is that there's a much larger game at play. Celia is a pawn, and whether you're carrying Ryan's child or not, is a key player. Trust me, Leah. You need to get your head on straight." The words struck me like a lightning bolt, igniting a deeper thread of panic laced with curiosity. What larger game? How deeply entangled was Celia in this web of struggle? I caught Jess's concerned gaze, and the fear in it echoed my own. "Don't listen to him," he urged. "He's just trying to manipulate you again. We can handle this without him." Dirk raised his hands in mock surrender. "All I'm saying is you should prepare for what's coming. It's bigger than any one of us. And trust me, the truth is about to unravel in a way you never expected." I took a tentative step back, the shadows of my past shrouding me anew. "Why should I believe anything you say? You've lied and twisted everything up until now. Because if you don't, you may lose everything you care about," he whispered, a malicious undertone creeping into his voice. "Including him." He nodded at Jesse, an unsettling smirk growing as fear gripped my throat. The unsettling truth of his words lingered like a venomous fog. The tension in the air thickened, stifling and choking, as I locked eyes with Dirk once more. In that moment, I glimpsed what lay beyond the facade, a darker design. A plot I was only beginning to piece together. And just as hope flickered its dim light within the chaos, it felt as though that light was a target now, drawing all the shadows closer. The sunlight dwindled further, leaving only the edges of twilight whispering ominously around us. Jess's breath hitched beside me. I could feel him willing strength into me, yet the gnawing suspicion that everything was about to spiral again hung heavily between us. "Whatever you have planned, it won't end well," I declared, voice steadied by a newfound resolve, even as uncertainty licked at my lungs like fire. But Dirk only chuckled, shaking his head slowly. "Oh, you have no idea what's coming, Leah. Just remember, no matter how hard you try to escape your past, it always finds a way back." And with that ominous promise hanging unspoken between us, he turned and walked away, leaving me and Jesse standing on the precipice of something darker, something I was not yet ready to confront. Was it ever possible to escape the choices that had bound me? As I grappled with this truth, I felt a whisper of dread seeping back in, positioning my heart in line with what may come next, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The dim light of the street lamps flickered feebly as we lingered in the aftermath of Dirk's departure. Shadows clung to me like an unwanted embrace, swathing my thoughts in confusion and fear. Jesse stood beside me, his presence a fragile tether to reality, as I unspooled the chaos tumbling within my heart. "I can't believe he showed up like this," Jesse murmured, his voice strained with concern. "What did he mean about Ryan and Celia?" My stomach twisted again at the mention of their names. I don't know, I admitted, emotion tightening my throat. But it feels like everything is spiraling out of control. The wind stirred around us, a chilling reminder of the uncertainty that lay ahead. We have to be careful, Jesse said, his eyes scanning the shadows. No more secrets. No more risks. I know. But as I spoke, I felt a wave of sorrow wash over me, a longing for the simple days of clarity, before my life became a tangled web of unresolved issues and hidden dangers. Hey, Jesse said softly, breaking through my reverie with a reassuring squeeze of my hand. Let's go get some coffee. We can talk more about this, make a plan. Coffee sounds nice, I replied, even as dread loomed. Would I ever get back to a semblance of normalcy? Questions lingered in the air between us like an untamed storm. We made our way to a nearby café, the familiar sounds of clinking cups and soft chatter easing some of my tension. I appreciated the warmth of the atmosphere as we settled into a corner booth, the world outside fading into a blur. Here, Jesse prompted, sliding a steaming cup toward me. Drink this. You look like you need it. I wrapped my hands around the mug, drawing in its warmth. Thank you. As the steam curled up, it carried a sense of comfort. I took a sip, the rich flavor momentarily distracting me from the chaos swirling in my mind. I wish we could just forget about Dirk. But we can't, Jesse said gently, his brow knit with concern, considering what he said about the baby, not to mention the potential consequences. It feels like we're in way over our heads. I nodded, my heart plunging at the reminder. The weight of uncertainty pressed hard against my chest. I thought I left that life behind. Leah, you can't let him get to you again, Jesse urged, leaning forward. His eyes bore into mine, filled with an earnest resolve. We know the truth now. We have to prepare for whatever comes next. Just then, as if the universe were conspiring against us, the cafe door swung open, and in walked Celia. Her laughter chimed over the din of the cafe, bright and mocking, striking a dissonant note deep within me. She strolled in like she owned the place, a vision of confidence with a practiced ease that made my skin crawl. Speak of the devil, I muttered, eyes glued to her as she approached the counter. Are you okay? Jess's voice pierced through my frayed thoughts, concern flaring in his eyes as he noticed my sudden tension. He'll be fine. She just pisses me off, I said, hiding my unease behind a thin veneer of bravado. But the truth was far more tangled. Celia represented everything that threatened to unravel the fragile sense of control I had managed to salvage. My pulse quickened as she turned, catching sight of us in our corner booth. A smirk crossed her lips, and I felt a jolt of venomous dread course through me. Look who it is, she called out, her voice dripping with mockery as she sauntered closer. The perfect couple. How quaint. My heart raced. What do you want, Celia? I spat, the words edged with all the anger I had been suppressing. I have nothing to say to you. She tilted her head, her expression twisting into something mocking which made my skin crawl. Oh, don't be like that, Leah. I've come to share some very exciting news. News? Jesse echoed, his posture shifting between protection and defiance. Why would we want anything from you? Oh, I think you'll be interested in this one. You see, she continued, drawing closer as though relishing the discomfort she was inflicting. I overheard a little chat between Ryan and Dirk. My breath hitched, anticipation coiling tightly in my stomach. What are you talking about? Ryan is planning baby announcements soon, and let's just say he seems rather oblivious about who else might be involved in this little party. Celia's smile widened, her delight in my impending distress palpable. Don't you dare twist that, I hissed, outrage boiling within me. You don't know anything about us. Oh, don't I? Or perhaps you simply refuse to see how deeply the roots are intertwined in this little game. Dirk wasn't kidding when he said things are about to unravel. Her words twisted and knotted inside me, pulling tight the threads of doubt and fear that I had thought I had begun to thread neatly. Leave. Now, Jesse ordered, his voice steadier than mine, a fierce protectiveness seeping from every syllable. Celia merely laughed, the sound brimming with malice as she stepped back, gaze flicking from me to Jesse. They'll be seeing you both very soon. Just remember, The truth always finds a way to the surface. With that, she turned and walked away, her steps echoing an unsettling farewell that lamented something more damning than I could grasp. As I sank back into the booth, my body felt heavy with dread. The cafe felt smaller now, the smells and sounds merging into a muffled hum, leaving only the pounding of my heart resonating in my ears. What did she mean? Jess's voice broke through, his face shadowed with concern. "Leah, are you okay?" I met his gaze, the words caught in my throat. The faces of betrayal and uncertainty danced in my mind, and as I opened my mouth to respond, I felt the weight of a realization pressing down. I wouldn't truly know how far this tangled web of secrets extended until the moment it all began to unravel. And just then, a thought so harrowing gripped me that the very thing I feared most might already be set in motion. What else had I lost control over? The quiet rhythm of the cafe faded into nothing as dread became companion once more, coiling its slippery tendrils around hope. I was trapped in a game, one I hadn't anticipated, filled with players whose moves I couldn't predict. The storm was only just gathering strength, and I feared a torrent would break loose before I had a chance to prepare, before I even understood the depths of what they were truly after. The air in the cafe had thickened with uncertainty, a lingering tension settling heavily on my chest. I stared into the remnants of my coffee, its dark depths a mirror of my spiraling thoughts. The jarring encounter with Celia replayed in my mind like a tormenting echo, each word she had spoken reverberating, gnawing at the frayed edges of my composure. "Leah." Jess's hand found mine, grounding me with his warmth. "We can figure this out. Promise. But you need to talk to me. What are you really feeling?" The concern in his eyes made my heart ache, a tender reminder of the connection we shared. "I feel like everything is slipping away," I confessed, the truth emerging in a shaky whisper. "Celia's right about one thing, secrets have a way of coming out, and I don't know how to handle it." He leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to handle it alone. Whatever Dirk is planning, or whatever Celia thinks she knows, we'll face it together. You mean too much to me to let anyone come between us." His words ignited a flicker of hope, but it was quickly snuffed out by the oppressive fear that had woven itself into my thoughts. I could almost feel the weight of their scheming breath around me, the stakes silently escalating with each passing hour. The implications of Ryan's anticipated announcement gnawed at me, filling me with an anxiety that was hard to shake. With a deep breath, I tried to shake off my doubts. "Let's not dwell on this right now. I should have asked you to stay away from all this drama." "What? And abandon you? I'd never." He smiled softly, but the shadows of worry lurked beneath. Just then, the cafe bell jingled again, pulling my attention toward the entrance. A lanky figure stepped in, shaking off the cold and scanning the crowd like a lost soul seeking connection. My heart skipped when I recognized him. It was Ryan. His demeanor was jarringly casual, a stark contradiction to the storm brewing inside me. "I should leave," I murmured, desire poisoning the air between Jesse and me, filling it with tension. "I cannot deal with him right now." "Wait," Jesse urged, just as Ryan caught sight of us and began making his way over, his expression brightening with an unaware enthusiasm. "Leah." "Jesse." What a surprise. Ryan greeted us, his intention to keep up appearances evident as he slid into the booth across from us. "Mind if I join? I've got some news that might interest you." "Yeah, we know about your news," I blurted, unable to conceal the irritation blooming within me. "Celia just told us." "Very cute to have a nice touch with some exaggerations, Ryan," I added sarcastically. Ryan's smile faltered, confused. "What are you talking about?" I caught Jess's warning glance but pushed forward. The raw emotions seething beneath my surface demanded release. "Your baby announcement. Do you really believe Celia and Dirk haven't worked it into some kind of scandal, especially with you continuing to throw it in people's faces?" "What?" He blinked, taken aback, then quickly reassured me with a feigned laugh. "You're not serious, are you? I would never let anyone ruin my happiness." "What happiness?" I spat, a vicious rush of emotion surging forth. "You are blind to what's going on around you, Ryan." Jesse shifted uneasily, unaware of how on edge I had become. "Maybe we should know. Let's hear him out," I interrupted, fixing my gaze on Ryan, who looked increasingly bewildered. Go on, Ryan. Maybe you can convince me that your life isn't a perfect storm of disaster waiting to happen. I thought we were friends. Ryan stammered, his tone wavering between disbelief and offense. Friends? I echoed, incredulous. Is that all this is to you? You think you can just announce a baby to the world and have us piece together the fallout? Leah, listen, he began, but my frustration clouded the sight of logic, drowning it under waves of raw emotion. That I am tired of the lies, of the secrets. You've both toyed with me and pushed me into a corner, and now you're putting me in the spotlight against my will. You don't get to weigh me down while you float through life like you have all the answers. The cafe had quieted, curious eyes turned toward us, and my heart hammered wildly in my chest. I had crossed a line, and as shame flickered through me, I glanced at Jesse. His face was a mix of concern and support, but also confusion. Let's go, he urged gently, attempting to pull me from the wall I'd backed myself against. I can't just let this go. I shot back, my breath trembling. Not when everything is so unclear. Not when lives hang in the balance. Just then, Ryan's face hardened, urgency flashing in his eyes. If there's something you're not telling me, Leah, you need to be honest. Because if Celia dares to use this to her advantage, what advantage? I spat in disbelief. You think I've got a choice in any of this? I thought breaking free was an option. But now I may not even have that privilege. In that moment, a familiar chilling laugh echoed from the entrance. Celia had returned, flanked by Dirk. The two of them exchanged knowing glances, and I felt my skin crawl as they locked eyes on us, reveling in the tension we had inadvertently created. Looks like I came just in time, Celia said, her voice dripping with malice. Did I hear someone mention a little secret? The world around me blurred under the weight of impending dread, and all I could feel was the suffocating panic that gripped my heart. The twisted fabric of my life had once again become a stage for their cruel entertainment. Whatever you think you know, don't play games you can't finish, Jesse retorted, stepping protectively in front of me. But Celia merely laughed again, her eyes glinting with maleficence. Oh darling, the game has already begun. And trust me, it's about to get very interesting. With that, an uneasy silence enveloped us, and I was left hanging in the balance, fearing that all my worst nightmares were about to collide in a cataclysmic eruption. What did she mean by interesting? And what did I have to offer against their insidious plans? I felt a sense of impending doom creeping closer, as if every breath I took were one closer to a revelation that would irrevocably change everything. The cafe had descended into a heavy silence, the air thrumming with tension and unspoken fears. My heart raced as Celia's gleeful presence stood at the precipice of chaos, bringing with her a distinct threat that magnified the chaos swirling in my mind. It felt almost surreal, a macabre kind of entertainment staged for my personal tragedy. What do you want? I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper, but the tremor betrayed my mask of courage. She swept a hand through her hair, her confidence blooming with every second. Oh, just a friendly visit. Caught wind of some juicy details. You two seemed mighty cozy over here. With that, her sinister smile sliced through the distance like a knife, sharpening my awareness of the precarious cliff on which I stood. Glancing at Jesse, I felt the tension radiate from him, a protective energy that both comforted and terrified me. And what if I told you, Celia continued, deliberately slow, that there are consequences to harboring secrets, especially ones that, let's say, involve touchy subjects like paternity? The word hung like an ominous cloud, weighing heavily on my heart. You think this is some kind of joke? I shot back, fury rising within me. You are a parasite feeding off other people's lives. She stepped closer, the laughter fading from her eyes to be replaced by something darker. You're right, Leah. This is no joke. And it won't just affect you. It's already affecting everyone around you. The room seemed to shrink around us, words turning to daggers as the surrounding patrons shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between us with intrigue. I felt Jess's hand tighten around mine, but my thoughts were a storm, swirling and crashing into one another. The swirling doubt Celia cast about who I was and who I would become gnawed at me, leaving me raw and exposed. I needed to break free from this cycle of doubt before it consumed me. Yet, part of me felt bound by the choices I had made, torn between the past and the reality of my present. Lia Ryan's voice broke through the suffocating tension, compelling me to turn my gaze to him. If there's something more going on, this cannot be just about Celia. We need to talk. No, I said forcefully, the words slicing through the room as the weight of fear pulsed within me. You don't get to call the shots. Not now, not ever. The fire surged within me, a stark contrast to the smothering doubt that had nearly crushed my spirit. Celia leaned in closer, the smirk dancing on her lips, a predatory glint dancing in her eyes. Oh, sweet Lia, you're missing the bigger picture. This isn't simply about your little tiff with Ryan or even Dirk's mischief-making, she said seductively. It's all connected: your past, your future, and yes, even that little bundle of joy you might be carrying, she added with a taunting lilt. My breath caught in my throat as dread knotted together with anxiety, and a roar of indignation rose up within me. Trembling with uncertainty, but fueled by desperation, I replied, enough of this. I turned to Ryan and added emphatically, you need to put a stop to this nonsense. All of us need to face it together. But then, just as I began to pull the threads together, the door of the café swung open again, and in walked an unexpected figure: Jasmine, my older sister. Her presence radiated a sense of groundedness. She had always provided a safe harbor amidst the storms of my life. Lia. She rushed over, her worry palpable as her eyes scanned the chaotic tableau. What on earth is going on? Celia's laughter faded, replaced by an annoyed twitch of her lip. Just a little family reunion, she chirped, pulling back the vulnerability just as expertly as Shed twisted it before. But nothing they can't handle, right? Celia, step back, Jasmine warned, her demeanor changing instantly from sisterly concern to fierce protectiveness. You need to leave her alone. Now, or what? Do you think you can just command me to go? Celia's defiance dripped like venom. She thrived in the chaos, and we were nothing but pawns in her grand game. My heart pounded in my chest, the flood of emotions swirling dangerously close to the surface. Stay out of this, Celia, Jasmine said firmly, standing her ground next to me. You don't know what you're playing with. You might think you hold all the cards, but fate has a funny way of revealing the truth. Celia glared, retreating a step but unwilling to relinquish her grip on the chaos. This isn't over, Lia. Keep your friends close, but don't ignore the enemies lurking in the shadows. With that, she flounced away, her machinations swirling around her like a dark cloak that as the tension dissipated. I turned to Jasmine, searching her face for comfort. I'm so glad you're here, I whispered, guilt and fear wrestling in my heart. Things have gotten so complicated, Jasmine. Her brows knit together, concern etched on her features. Tell me everything, she urged. At that moment, the strained facade of my life began to peel away. My concerns, fears, and dreams unfurling like threads waiting to be woven back together. Jess's hand gripped mine tightly, and I felt the warmth flood back into my chest, a fragile sense of hope emanating from the bond we shared. Together, we would brave the storm no matter how dark it loomed. Okay, I began, taking a deep breath as clarity washed over me. Let's start again. And in that moment, I understood the power of confronting my truth. Beyond the rumors whispered in shadows, laid the undeniable threads of family. Standing together against the ghosts of our past, ready to face what came next. The journey hadn't broken me. It had led me here toward a reckoning. I was no longer a passive player in a game defined by others, but a protagonist ready to reclaim my narrative and rewrite my fate. That realization crystallized within me, giving my voice strength as I faced my sister, Jessie, and the tumultuous path ahead. No more secrets, I vowed softly. We define our story. As I uttered those words, I felt the chains of the past beginning to crack, faint beams of light breaking through the fog of uncertainty. The journey that lay ahead was mine to embrace, no longer bound by fear or manipulation. Together, we were ready to face the world, that we could rise from the shadows and ignite the light, fearless and whole. And perhaps the final chapter of our story had just begun.